Imagine this. You're peacefully asleep on a plane, thinking it's just another routine flight. But then, out of nowhere, the captain makes a shocking announcement. Is there a fighter pilot on board? What happens next will leave you on the edge of your seat. A terrifying crisis, an unexpected hero, and a plane full of passengers fighting for their lives. Stay with us as we dive into this incredible true story. You won't believe what happens next. Maya had been running on empty for the past few days. Her mind had been consumed by preparations for a major business presentation, one that could shape the future of her career. From meetings to emails to conference calls, there had been little room for rest. As the hours ticked by, her exhaustion grew. The mental and physical toll had worn her down, and she needed to recharge. So she booked a last-minute flight to her next destination, hoping to steal a few hours of sleep in the air. As the plane ascended into the sky, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. It was a chance to catch her breath, if only for a moment. She found her seat and settled in. The soft hum of the engines and the steady rhythm of the plane gave her a sense of calm. She buckled her seatbelt and sank into the plush seat, allowing herself to relax. The world outside the window seemed distant, insignificant. The cabin was quiet, the lighting dim, and the gentle rocking of the plane slowly lulled her into a peaceful slumber. Her mind drifted away from the stress of the week. She felt weightless, her body sinking deeper into the seat as her eyelids grew heavier. The noise of the world faded to nothingness. Maya was in the perfect state of comfort, until everything shattered. A loud, terrifying noise jolted Maya awake. It wasn't the usual sounds of the plane, turbulence, or the engines that she was used to. This was different. It was sharp, abrupt, and unsettling. Maya's eyes shot open, her heart immediately racing. Her hands gripped the armrests as panic set in. The once calm and quiet atmosphere in the cabin was replaced by an eerie silence. The usual hum of conversation and clinking of trays had disappeared. Passengers around her were frozen, eyes wide with fear, scanning the aisles as if waiting for something to happen. There was no need for words. Everyone could feel it. Something was wrong. Maya blinked rapidly, trying to shake off the fog of sleep, but her body was still disoriented. She had been so deep in slumber that she wasn't fully aware of what was happening around her. But now the tension in the air was undeniable. The flight attendants, usually so composed, were moving quickly down the aisles, their expressions grim. Some were whispering to one another, their voices barely audible over the soft whir of the plane's engines. Her mind raced, trying to process the situation. Had something happened to the plane? Was it a mechanical failure? Maya couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The quiet whispers from the attendants only heightened her anxiety. She glanced around. The other passengers were on edge, exchanging nervous glances. Some were gripping the armrests, others were clutching their loved ones, their faces pale with fear. A few passengers even stood up, trying to peer down the aisles, as if hoping to catch a glimpse of what was going on. The collective tension was suffocating. Maya's stomach churned. She felt helpless, trapped in her seat. The peaceful environment she had been enjoying only moments before now seemed like a distant memory. It was as if she had stepped into a nightmare where every minute stretched into an eternity. The plane, which had once felt like a safe haven, now felt like an unpredictable, volatile space. She tried to steady her breathing, but the knot in her chest only tightened. Moments later, the captain's voice came over the intercom. It was not the reassuring tone that passengers had come to expect. The captain sounded unnerved, his voice shaky, though he was doing his best to maintain control. "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. We've encountered a serious issue with one of our systems. Our navigation system is malfunctioning, and we need assistance. Please, if there is any fighter pilot on board, we need your help." Maya's heart skipped a beat. A fighter pilot? The words echoed in her head, but they didn't make sense. Was this some kind of joke? Why would a fighter pilot be needed on a commercial flight? What was happening? She glanced around at the other passengers. The murmurs grew louder. Some people were whispering prayers, others were visibly panicking. Maya's mind raced. Was this an emergency? Were they in danger? The captain's next words only added to the growing fear in the cabin. "Please, If there is anyone on board with experience as a fighter pilot, we need you immediately. This is not a drill. The silence in the cabin deepened. For a moment, it felt as though time had stopped. The fear was palpable. The captain's voice was now more urgent, his anxiety seeping through the intercom. Maya's hands began to sweat. What did this mean? Was the plane in immediate danger? She looked at the passengers around her. No one seemed to move. No one spoke. There was a collective hesitation in the air, as if everyone was waiting for someone else to act. The tension was suffocating, and the fear was beginning to settle in her chest. Was she going to be stuck here, helpless, as the situation escalated? She could barely breathe as the seconds ticked by, each one more excruciating than the last. But then, just when it seemed as if everything would spiral out of control, a calm voice spoke up from the back of the plane. "I'm a retired fighter pilot," the voice said. "I can help." Maya's eyes widened as she turned to see the man who had spoken. He was an unassuming figure, middle-aged, wearing a simple jacket and glasses. But there was an unmistakable confidence in his tone. Despite the chaos around them, his words were steady, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Maya felt a flicker of hope. The captain's voice returned to the intercom, this time with a sense of relief. "Thank you, sir. Please proceed to the cockpit immediately." The retired fighter pilot made his way to the front of the plane, his movements purposeful and confident. As he passed through the aisles, the passengers followed him with their eyes, almost as if watching a hero make his way into battle. The tension in the cabin had not yet dissipated, but now there was something different. The fear was still there, but it was accompanied by a glimmer of hope. Minutes passed, but each one felt like an eternity. The turbulence had worsened, and the plane seemed to shake more violently. It was as though the aircraft itself was struggling to stay steady in the air. But in those few moments, there was a sense of calm that spread through Maya, knowing that someone with the experience to handle the situation was now in control. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the turbulence began to subside. The shaking slowed, the plane's movements became more stable, and the fear that had plagued the cabin began to fade. The captain's voice came over the intercom once more. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to assure you that the situation is under control. With the assistance of our fighter pilot, we have successfully addressed the issue. We are now on a safe and stable course." Maya closed her eyes for a moment, exhaling the breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The tension that had been suffocating the cabin was gone. She leaned back in her seat, her body finally relaxing as relief washed over her. But she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just experienced something life-changing. That flight, which had begun as a simple rest, had turned into a life-or-death situation. Maya had felt the weight of fear, the helplessness of being a passenger in a crisis. But she also witnessed the power of a calm and skilled person stepping forward when needed most. She would never forget the moment when everything changed, when one quiet hero saved a plane full of strangers, and when she, along with all the passengers, learned that sometimes the unexpected can turn fear into hope. That's it for today's story. A huge shout out to the unexpected hero who saved the day. What did you think of this terrifying flight experience? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an exciting new story. Stay tuned for more incredible stories, and until next time, stay safe and take care.